Right, well hello, this is my third video on my Netduino buggy. At the end of the last video I had a version 1 Netduino Plus controlling the buggy and just about nothing else. There's various sensors around the buggy as before. So we've got bump sensors on the front, we've got some infrared range sensors and also some digital infrared sensors at the back to detect things close in at the back. The buggy used to have a display on the top showing the status of the buggy, basically saying what it was trying to do. So the LED saying whether it was trying to go backwards, whether it was turning, or whether it was going forwards at different speeds, and whether it was veering to the left or the right. What I've done since then is to split the software in the buggy across multiple processors, and I've done that by putting an Ethernet cable in, linking it to a Raspberry Pi. So initially what I did was to take two Netduinos and link those with an Ethernet cable and rewrite my software so I had an interface controlling the LEDs, and I was able to select then whether the interface directly controlled the LEDs on the one Netduino or whether it would use an Ethernet thread to send the status out using UDP messages. To do that I had to upgrade my firmware to version 4.2 because the 4.1 firmware had the bug where if you don't have the other end already live, the Ethernet doesn't work when you turn it on. Of course it would never work if you have two Netduinos connected together. So basically started off with the two Netduinos, and I was then able to split the display as you see here. So this one is currently wired into my home network through a cable, but initially that was plugged directly into the buggy. These were quite handy when I was doing that. Basically they're power over Ethernet cables, and they allowed me to have all the batteries in one place and pass the power through the Ethernet cabling. So moving on, I had a surprise present of a Raspberry Pi, and so I decided it would be quite good to have the Raspberry Pi doing some of the higher level functions, and also giving me a link to the Wi-Fi in the house. And so what I've ended up with is the Raspberry Pi strapped on top with its Wi-Fi dongle on the front there, Ethernet cable going through to the Netduino, and batteries here powering the sensors and the Netduino itself. Something I found was that the Netduino wasn't able to supply 5 volts to all of the sensors and also run the Ethernet, so I've had to split the power supply into two separate battery packs. As before, there's a separate battery pack inside for the motors. If I flip that on, it's actually trying to do things at the moment. So the Netduino, I put in an interface class which allowed me to send out UDP messages over the Ethernet. They're being received by the Raspberry Pi at the moment, and on there I've got a very simple Python script which listens on one port and then relays anything it hears out onto another port, and so things will come in on the wired Ethernet and then go back out over Wi-Fi and hopefully will turn up here. Currently this Netduino isn't hearing anything on the UDP, and so it's set the LEDs to say it hasn't got anything, so it's a nonsensical code basically saying turn left and right at the same time, just to say there's nothing coming in. So when I run this script, what should happen is the messages already coming from the Netduino will now be relayed across to the Wi-Fi and then to the router and then onto this cable. So if I hit go, so straight away the robot at the moment is trying to turn to the right. Oh, it's going backwards now. So if I move it around, you should see that start to change. So it now wants to go forward but turn off to the right, left, going fast, and so on. So that's about it for here at the table. What I'll do now, I'll put the buggy on the ground as I did before. So if I put it down and turn it on, and away it goes. Now previously the LEDs were on top. As I say now, you can see as it's negotiating the corner, it's actually telling us what it's doing. And it's in a tricky corner at the moment. And it's about to hit the chair. No. And so now it's free, it's going forwards quite fast. So where I want to go with this next, and it's found the camera tripod, let's turn it on. What I want to do next is to have some control coming from the Raspberry Pi. So basically have it sending information back. So the idea is the robot chassis will drive around until it finds something, tell the Raspberry Pi, and then it's up to the Pi to decide what to do next. So hopefully another update soon.